Hello everyone, welcome to my biomechanical analysis. To begin, let us briefly introduce some history about the game of racquetball. In the 1940s, Joseph Sobek wanted to create a faster-paced game similar to the other racket sports he played in. In 1952, a partnership with the YMCA and the newly created International Paddlers Racket Association began, introducing the sport to the world. Here we have some examples of how the racket evolved from an original wooden frame, leather grip, and tennis string to a far lighter alloy body with a larger racket head. In racquetball, the power, or commonly called drive serve, is a very aggressive and popular style that, if performed correctly, can get some quick points. As we'll go into detail later, the objective of someone performing a power serve is to deliver the ball that's both fast and low to the ground away from the opponent's forehand. So here we have Shane, who's demonstrating a power serve for us. There are many muscle groups associated with this movement. Your primary movers are going to be your deltoids, trapezius, most of the forearm muscles, biceps, triceps, pectorals, some obliques, and glutes. You're also going to have your stabilizing and secondary force transfer muscles, which are mainly your trunk muscles, such as the anterior serratus, rectus abdominis, the latissimus dorsi, and then also some rotator cuff. So there are two very important variables associated with the successful performance of a power serve, and that's torque and moment arm. And torque essentially is everything to do with the power serve itself. So as we know, torque is the churning effect caused by a force around a rotational axis. So if we take Shane here, for example, in the power serve, the rotational axes are going to be his hips, wrist, and also the shoulder joint. Now, a linear attack is not going to be as efficient as one that has more angular displacement. So for Shane to have a linear attack to the ball, he would have to squat so low and have the racket travel almost parallel to the ball and hit square on. Well, that's not going to be as efficient for him unless he actually swings from an angular displacement and attacking the ball like so. In racquetball, especially pertaining to the power serve, the length of the moment arm plays a crucial role in the amount of torque created during the swing. Though the velocity and ultimately the force production may remain the same if the moment arm is shorter, it still will not produce a higher amount of torque compared to a serve that incorporates the full length of the arm in the racket. So we can see in this example here with Shane, he does a great job establishing his base and extending or elongating his arm and the racket to almost full extension, so that way he's incorporating most of that moment arm and thus increasing the force production that's going to come out of that swing. Stated by Flesig and colleagues in 2013, the same principles are also in effect when a batter chokes up on the bat for a swing. The moment arm may be shorter and thus a quicker swing, but this reduces the overall torque and power production, which then less likely has the ball travel further. Hume et al. In 2005 actually supports the fact that if you include the axis or rotation to be the hips, then the moment arm increases greatly from the racket rather than the shoulder joint. So instead of this being a rotational axis, we actually incorporate most of the trunk, the arm, and the racket around the hips to attack the ball. So Shane does a good job dropping the ball right in front of his base of support in order to maximize the torque development from his elongated arm. He has his swing arm fully extended up around his shoulder and posterior to his hips. So instead, if he were to raise this up even higher or have the racket go back even further, this would actually reduce the velocity of the swing because the duration of the swing would take longer. Usually when this happens, someone like Shane would compensate that lag time of duration of swing by using more muscle force or muscle contraction. Done over and over again, Shane could actually experience premature fatigue throughout the game and even possible injury just from compensating from muscular contraction instead of actually keeping his wrist and his arm closer to his body as he attacks the ball. So during a power serve, the lower the ball travels off the ground, the harder it is to return. Again, that's just kind of the point of where we want the ball to be attacked. The ball must be struck at a very low distance to the ground. To do this, the server's arm and racket must travel and strike at the lowest point of the ball's bounce. So it's important that the angular rotation of the swing around the shoulder and the hips axes move the racket low enough. To do this, it's best that the player lowers his center of gravity towards the ball in order to get a better swing. You can see in the still shot on the left, Shane actually does a very good job of keeping his center of gravity low. That way his point of attack is at a good depth of the ball here, and an appropriate angle for that way the ball to transfer to the front wall and come behind him. In this next video, this is actually Shane doing the technique incorrectly. What Shane actually does in this technique, and we really didn't even practice this, was he had dropped the ball right in between his center of gravity here. Primarily, you want to have the ball outside in front here. So he places the ball right in front of him, which then makes him carry his momentum forward towards the ball instead of carrying the momentum towards the serving wall to where he wants to hit it. So the vector of where his force production is going to go is actually out away from the ball, away from his swing, instead of towards the wall where it's supposed to go. So not only does he bounce the ball in front of him, he takes a step forward, momentum goes forward towards the ball, but not towards where it needs to hit. And then that also creates him to have a shorter moment arm because the ball is going to be right here in front of him instead of being out here, allowing him to have an elongated arm like we saw in the previous pictures for him to attack the ball accordingly. Lastly, we've noticed that his plant leg, instead of being sidestepped behind him to carry the momentum forward, is planted here, thus creating all the torque to be here in his hips and not so much in the arms. If we go back in the video, Shane's attack was actually finished up quite high up here. So when that ball is returned back to the player, it's going to be easy to hit instead of being lowered to the ground. So here's just a quick video of a professional racquetball player executing the power serve. As you can see, Shane did a very good job of replicating the actual serve himself. So, well, this concludes the analysis of my racquetball power serve video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you very much.